We have no idea where they are on the table, by the way. I know they have a 10-match win streak.
Yeah,
I was pissed
this is
about
so
that.
true.
But I'm like, come on, are they close? Are they up there? I know Tottenham and Liverpool aren't doing well, but they got to be close, right? Are they top four? I got to know this stuff.
Hey sports nerds, welcome to a Nerdy Bunch review of Ted Lasso Season 3, Episode 10. My name's English Dave, and joining me to figure out if I missed an episode is my co-host Tim Sportsman. What's up, Tim?
It's a great question, Dave. I got a lot of questions, not a lot of answers, and there's only 2 episodes left. So I'm
Whoa.
hyped. Let's get into it.
I mean, Coach Tim, your team's on
Okay.
a 10 game winning streak. How do you feel?
One of the only things good. One of the only good things about this season right now. They're in a 10 match win streak. They keep like
Yes.
messing up with all this stuff. Like it's not your fault. It's the commentary from Ted Lasso. They're calling football soccer. They're calling
Ugh,
these games. Haven't we learned already? Come
ugh,
on.
ugh.
We should know better.
Throws me off. That Soccer Saturday opening. I'm
Yeah.
just like, I know there's alliteration. Soccer Saturday. Okay, I get it. Because football Saturday doesn't ring the same way. But whatever. You could have found something else to work with it. I just,
Football Fridays. Make it work. Not too
there you go.
crazy.
Make
Yeah.
it work.
Problem solved.
And the game, the opening starts off again. This is why I think I've missed an episode. Nate is out
True.
of West Ham.
Yeah.
Okay, he's out. Just okay. We find out later on. We'll get into it. Find out later on that because we assume that he's fired, and everyone else assumes he was fired, but we find out later on that he quit. You know, one of the things that you and I have been talking about this season in terms of Nate is it's one thing to see Nate fall in love, but we haven't seen Nate one fully as a coach on this team and his reaction to becoming quote unquote good again and how that reaction to the team. You know, we were thinking there's going to be some kind of face off with Rupert. You know, we were thinking that maybe Jade will help Nate, you know, grow a pair and actually stand up for himself, and we see that whole scene. Even if Nate quit, we didn't see it. It was just told to us through exposition. Let's go straight into it. What do you think of Nate's story this episode?
We don't see anything, man. We don't even see Edwin Akufu throw the food at all these billionaire boys, you know? And realistically, we'll get to Nate, but is he really gonna throw food at each and every one of them? Like what happened in that room? I have no idea. All I know is the Super League is gone. But let's go to Nate. Nate's coming back to Richmond. I know they didn't say it yet, but he's coming back. He's
I
playing
mean,
the
he
violin.
went to the locker. He went to the locker room. He did.
He
He
did.
put out the stuff for Will and
He
apologized to Will.
apologized to Will, you know? He put
Well,
everything
through a note,
perfectly.
but
Yeah, a little I'm sorry, the one the kid.
yeah. Hmm.
Word, word. But yeah, we're just supposed to accept it that we like Nate. And that's what we kind of have already talked about throughout this series. Um, it was such a perfect balance of showing us why we need to like him and then why we need to hate him. And now coming back to the good side, it's almost rushed and forced. I don't like how that feels as an audience member. I was a little annoyed through, I'd say, 80% of this episode. The end kind of warmed me up, and I'm like, all right, you know what? There's 2 episodes left. Let me give him some credit, but I'm not feeling great about it. I don't know where they're going to go. They didn't have enough situation between the conversation of Jade and Nate. I think this is a perfect opportunity for Jade to actually talk, not go to Poland, talk to Nate, and then maybe meet the family or like something like that. I liked the conversation between Nate and his dad. I think that's, at least for me, something that hit home for sure. You know, a father that was hard on him, but because he didn't know how to parent a genius, he didn't know what to do. He thought he should be hard on him. While at the end of the day, he just wants his son to be happy. And that's what I hear consistently from every parent. I just want my kids to be happy. You know, whether it's being a football coach, being an expert violinist, he's a wonder kid. And just don't call yourself the wonder kid. You know, you could be a genius, but don't need to walk in your room. Hi, Nate. Hi, I'm Nate. I'm the genius. Like, nice to meet you. Like, nah, come on, Nate. I'm still pissed. I'm sorry.
You know, this that the aspect of Nate. You know, he sneaks to his parents' house to get away from the paparazzi and all that stuff, and I understand all that to get away from the pressure and everything like that. And I feel I wish we had more of the back and forth between Nate and his dad this season to see Nate's dad reacting to him as the new head coach and things like that. Because we got a bit of Nate's dad in previous seasons, how tough he was. But I wish it was a thing that built more so that when he does apologize, there's more of a catharsis to it. We get a lot of Nate telling us this how I felt instead of having seen how he felt with that. And then I don't know, it kind of makes sense, but I was a bit thrown off when the dad's like, oh yeah, you were a genius. It's like, whoa, okay, we just found that out. Like you said, these are things that on their own, out of context, on their own, they seem interesting, but because they haven't been digested enough, I'm like, you're throwing this in now? Like, whoa, okay, what if you should? I mean, I get we calling him Nate the Great and all that stuff, and he was good at coming with tactics, but we never quite showed that he was a genius.
Yeah.
And that was an aspect to it. And then to have that be the reason the dad says was like, whoa, throwing off. And then, this was back to being another long episode. And I felt a lot of Nate's scenes seemed to drag the episode.
Oh yeah.
I get they're trying to show a montage of him going through it, but I'm like, okay, we get it. Like, how long do you have to keep seeing this for? And like, I agree with you. I think taking Jade off the table so early on the episode, I was like, oh, okay, she's just gonna go to Poland. Like it would have been interesting to have him go with her, maybe, and just be the whole episode between two of them being on the plane flight. Or we find out that he quit. Like we never got a sense as much as Nate was feeling, we were getting hints that Nate was feeling some kind of way about the things he missed about Richmond, like the Diamond Dogs and things like that. We never got the sense that he was like, fuck it, I'm quitting. Like your team is
Absolutely.
doing well,
Yeah.
you're middle of the season, and just like that, you quit. And I'm not saying it's impossible for him to quit, but for the audience, if a coach of a team that's doing well quits like that, that means there's drama involved, right? I would love to have seen that drama as opposed to just off screen. I would love to see him tell Rupert and what was the interaction like. Let's see Nate actually, step up for himself against Rupert because again, we've been building this up all season with like Rupert being this person telling Nate what to do. This is how you should dress. This is the car you should have. These are the women you should date. And I would love to be Nate say like, no, I don't want to live
Yeah.
that life. I quit. Kind of things like, you know what I'm saying?
He just hides at home. But just like you're
Yeah.
saying, like, show us the conflict. Show us, like, we know you don't like Rupert and you don't respect him. But then it went from, it was almost like we missed 2 months of action. We missed
Yeah. Yeah.
Richmond on a 10 match win streak. 10 matches takes a long time. It's 2.5 months
Hmm.
minimum. And now they have a little break for the World Cup. Okay, cool. Sam didn't get it because Edwin Kufu puts in a $20 million check and he decides to rent out the whole restaurant and reserve every table. So he's like, I'm going to destroy your life. Let's give us like a little conflict there. Like, show us more, not just say, like, okay, Edwin's a dick. Nate's nice now. Keely's back with Roy. Ted, who knows what he's up to. We only have 2 episodes left. There was so much jam packed in this and not enough digging with each topic.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. And let's go to Edwin. Like you
Okay.
said, Edwin coming back for Sam, it was just like a little side thing, right? It wasn't really part of Sam's storyline. Again, I think they don't know what to do with Sam this season. It's just like throw him here and there. He had an awkward moment with Rebecca, but I don't know if that's even going anywhere. He had even that awkward, weird high five moment with Edwin's assistant. I was just like, okay, I get it, but he's just dragging this joke for too long. Like Pinky Dick. Oh, you're no name Pinky Dick. I'm like, okay, I get it, but let's go forward. But I wanted to ask you this: one of the narratives they kind of pull off with Edwin. I'm not sure how I feel about how it was executed. Not necessarily for the narrative, because it's a narrative that has been in football lately in terms of this idea of a super league.
Mhm.
What did you think of how it was done in this one? Because this is something that has been talked about, right, in real world in terms of let's create a super league, all the best teams, and people have had different arguments from how this show used. This could kind of push out people who don't have money to that narrative of now you're going to have international players playing too many games because there's too many competitions going out in a given time. What did you think of how this handled that idea of a super league?
Yeah, I mean, they bring Edwin in. They're like, all right, remind us of, these billionaire boys and how like awful they can be. And, Rebecca's little joke of, yeah, I can't wait for old men to, talk straight to my chest. It's like, ha, 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 ha. Now Rupert has this like nice assistant instead of this like bimbo assistant. Okay, great. He's growing. Okay. And now Rebecca's speech was the best part of it all. She's breaking
Mhm,
down, as Keeley said in her text, picture them as little boys. So she pictured them as
Hmm.
little boys
Hmm.
instead of these like, billionaires who are intimidating. And she talks to them about like why we love football and how it turns men into heroes and how, you know, let's not like destroy why like let's not rip this away from people. This is something they're passionate about. This is something that they could watch when they're upset with their family drama and their careers and they're upset with everything, but they could come and root for Jamie Tart to score a goal. Something as simple as that. Like let's not be so greedy. Do we need another billion? Do billionaires, and I know this, look, everybody wants more money. Even people with $10 billion want more money. But she's opening it up for the audience and being like, do we really need the Super League? Or are you going to rip away all the Davids? Like Richmond as a club, they are the antithesis of a David. They, even though they're doing great this season, we have no idea where they are on the table, by the way. I know they have a 10-match win streak.
Yeah,
I was pissed
this
about
is so
that.
true.
But I'm like, come on, are they close? Are they up there? I know Tottenham and Liverpool aren't doing well, but they gotta be close, right? Are they top four? I gotta know this stuff. But like Rebecca's like, look, I don't want to do this. And everybody agrees. And she pulls in Rupert's story of this little boy who kicked the security guard in the nuts because basically he got caught and smacked. And then 25 years later, he buys the club and gives the guy a promotion for no reason other than what happened 25 years ago. I loved her speech, but overall, as this like Super League, they didn't really dig into it much. They kind of just gave us little like newspaper clippings and basically saying like, here's an opportunity for us to get Rupert and Rebecca together in a close setting and that almost kiss. And that was forced. That was our way of making sure Rupert and Rebecca are done.
When she says, you know, I no longer care if I beat Rupert to Ted, that was the whole point of that narrative.
Yep.
It was just so that we can get there. And I'm fine to where we got. I just don't like how we got there. And the Super League storyline would have been perfect to be a season arc,
Hmm.
right? Introduce it at the beginning of the season.
Hmm.
Building. Maybe we should have brought Edwin back at the beginning of the season, and then you could have given more for Sam, and him kind of relentlessly attacking Sam. He's like, "Oh, never stop." Okay, we have 2 episodes left. You know, like you could have been building this attack on Sam. Like, in fact, he could have been the one that kind of paid the prime minister. The whole Sam episode of the restaurant couple episodes ago.
Sure.
That could have been part of that too. We could have been building. And so when Rebecca makes this speech now, it would have had a lot more build up to be impactful. Because I agree, her speech was great.
Hmm.
It's just like we never got the fan reaction to the Super League. What are fans thinking? We only see just a small reaction of people. It's only really in terms of the good side, Rebecca and part of Higgins' point of view. But I would have loved to see the fans talking about it, like, oh my God, the Super League, having debates, because just like we do, whenever we hear about this news in sports, us fans, we debate, we discuss. Our perspective is something that is heard a lot, but we don't really hear a fan perspective of this. This is just relegated to the rich people. And then, even then, as good as Rebecca's speech was, I just feel like everybody in the room seemed to agree so quickly. Like, it's that easy to convince a bunch of billionaires to
Lose
not
money.
make more money.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
Like, because I thought when Edwin was like, "Psh, whatever," I thought everyone would be like, "Psh, whatever," and maybe Rupert's the only one that's
Sure.
like, no, she's right, because it was the story she told was personal to him. I could understand why he changes, but some of these other guys, like that guy that was consistently like saying these sexist remarks to her,
Hmm.
I thought he would at least be like, "Fuck that shit, I want to make money," you know. And like you said, cut to the scene of him just have thrown food all over them. Okay, I guess that happened.
Yeah, good for
I
you.
get it, but
Or even the way they
I
kicked
think
the Russian billionaire out of the room, and they made the whole joke about the push and pull door. I'm like, it's just
yeah.
awkward. Like, I wanted to enjoy it, but
Hmm.
like, I was just annoyed throughout this. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna watch it because we're doing this. I'm not gonna quit. But
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
want
yeah.
to enjoy this episode. I want to be intrigued and looking forward to like, oh, what's gonna happen there? Instead of like, all right, how are they
Hmm.
gonna
Hmm.
finish this? It gives me like Game of Thrones
Hmm.
flashbacks. It's just like, gosh.
Again, like we've spoken about quite a few episodes this season, I feel that again they have this internal mandate. Let's keep the episode. Like, why is it an hour and 3 minutes? Like that's such a random time frame. And this, I could just look back and see many parts you could have edited out, edit that out, edit that out. What that high five moment with Sam and the assistant, take that out. Like Sam knows what's coming, we know what's coming, so it's not even funny when it comes. It's not even. It's like,
That
okay,
scene is
I
the
guess
definition of
that
cutting
happened.
room floor. Like, throw that shit in the garbage. I
Exactly,
swear, I was so
exactly.
annoyed because you're getting in my mind now where I'm like, was that necessary? Was that necessary?
You're right. It's like, well, what's the point? Sometimes you can cut scenes earlier and finish them off. One funny through line story that happens in this episode as well. Speaking of the international games, which again I thought the international game situation would be more prevalent in the episode. That'd be more of a thing, but it's more of a side thing in this episode, and it really focuses more on Van Damme and Danny Rojas.
Yeah, for sure.
And Danny's like, which which I thought it was funny, the concept of Danny being like, we are no longer teammates right
Sure.
now. But what bothered me about that is Danny's never shown that kind of aggression. Like, why doesn't he play like that against other teams? Suddenly internationally he shows aggression. Like, I can understand saying we're not teammates, but he's never been that aggressive. What did you think of that
No,
storyline?
I agree. I thought it was so awkward, from him crumbling the Doritos and giving him the empty bag
Right,
back and him saying, like, we're no longer friends,
right,
and then kicking the ball right in his face, breaking his nose. But then all of a sudden
right.
they're back
He's never done
they're
that.
back together on the team. He's like, "Yeah, we're fine now." But just like you're saying,
Right.
Danny Rojas has always been this, like, extremely joyful person, like, shows no animosity. I could see Jamie Tart maybe, not at this phase of
Hmm.
Jamie Tart, but somebody like that being like, "All right, I'm winning this for my country. This is for England." Like,
Hmm.
I'm like, "I want more Higgins." I got Higgins spilling the tea
Yes,
because he
give me
was
more
scared
Higgins.
again. I relate to that. Like, someone walks in my room, I'm just about to, like, enjoy, relax with a nice cup of tea, and then Rebecca comes in like, "Hey, I've
uh,
asked everybody. How about your mom?" "Why would I ask my mom for advice? Come on, who asked their mom for
he was
advice?"
so happy.
He's like, "Oh, please sit, please."
He was so he knows he's not the first person on the list, but he's happy he's before her
Yeah,
mom. I did like that he kind of opened her eyes to what really happens in Willy Wonka the Chocolate Factory. She's like, no. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, they're all dead.
that's so on brand, though.
No, he
Just
does.
give me more of that.
Right,
We
right,
have enough characters. We don't
right.
need a Cumberbatch, side piece right now. This is
No,
disgusting.
no, no, no. All right, let's talk about Rebecca. I mean, actually, let's
Yeah,
go to. We actually spoke about Rebecca. Let's go to. Sorry, let's go to
Keely? Yeah,
Keely, and we'll call Keely. Again, we said it from day one. We saw the red flags with Jack, and her business is destroyed. What was I gonna say? I did like Keely meeting with May. I thought that was a nice
sure.
moment with May from the
Yeah.
bar. I thought that was really good, and May giving her advice. It's like, my name's May. I find it interesting that Keely and May have never met. It makes sense. They've never met. It makes complete sense. And she's like, "Oh, what's your name? May? Short for something? Maybe." And it's like, "Okay,
Are you the
maybe."
owner here? Yeah, 40 plus years.
And it,
No big deal.
right, right. And I love the. What do you think of the lightning advice?
Yeah, it was
Well, he's
great.
that good. Or he's
Keely's
that
like,
bad?
everything I touch turns to shit. And then May says, shit makes everything grow. It's better to follow your gut than to pretend to be excited following someone else's. That was the first moment of this
Loved it.
episode where I was like, all right, cool. Nice life lesson. That's what Ted Lasso gives us.
Mm-hmm.
And then they gave us a few more
Mm-hmm.
later. But May's always there to be the
Mm-hmm.
rational perspective. Well, I don't know about rational, but, like a grounding perspective. She's a boss,
Yes.
someone
Yes.
that owns a pub, lives or dies by the success of
40
Richmond,
years.
but she doesn't want another skinny bitch like passing out on her, bar stool. She's like, all right, let me feed you. Let me feed you. Dan,
Fiji.
Dan may think you're the nicest and hottest boss ever, but I need to make sure you're properly fed so you're not going to be drunk leaving the spot.
I did like the moments between Barbara and
Yeah,
Keeley, kind of humanizing
yeah,
Barbara more. And with the globe, I was like, oh, snow
yeah,
globe. I like that call. See, that's a good example of, you know, a setup and payoff with that character. And she's like, it only counts if I pay for
yeah.
it. And she's like, oh, it was 60 quid.
Like
I was like,
60.
£60? What?
Overpaid for that, girl. Yeah.
Right?
And she's like, I'm gonna need the receipt.
I
It's
did.
like, oh, I can email it to you.
Yeah.
But then later, when she comes back, with the juicy pants because it's real.
She likes clothes
Yeah,
that tell the truth, she said.
juicy booty over here. But then she comes back. She joins Keeley. She's like, I want back on the team. I left Jack. But I thought it was weird with the
Yeah,
receipt
no,
where she was like, oh, sorry, like, let me not hug you. I need to go get the receipt. But I thought it was an email. I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah,
you're not just going to
yeah,
pull it
yeah,
off
yeah,
your
yeah.
phone.
I
But
mean,
nitpicking.
again, this is a nitpick that the show kind of skips scenes that we could have seen. Um, let's skip Keely for a bit. We'll come back to her because we'll go to Roy because his story converges with Keely's narrative. Roy, his niece Phoebe is having an uncle's day for Uncle Roy. Have we seen Phoebe's mum before? I don't
No, no,
remember having
no.
seen her
I'm
before.
like almost 100% sure there. But Jamie
Yeah,
thinks
so this is
she's
the
fit. So maybe she'll be around a little while longer. And Jamie doesn't have anybody right now. Keely's off the market.
no, no. Yeah, right. I like two things. I liked Phoebe's gift to
Yes.
Roy because I love the tie dye. Oh, it's red, orange, and yellow, like your name. I was like, oh,
So
that's
good.
smart. I like it. I did like him wearing the shirt to work, and everyone's just reactions like even Trent's reaction. Like Trent walks in, like what? I thought that scene was funny, though. I would have found it a lot funnier if he wore the shirt that Jamie got for him.
I hear you.
Because I love that joke where he's like, oh yeah, it's got your name at the
Yeah.
back of it. I changed the
Yeah.
E to a U. Never like, oh, even the door. Uncle Jamie, you owe me £1.
Swear jar.
He's like, why? You made me think it.
And then he curses again later.
You made me
Yeah, that
think
was
it.
a good line. And really sentimental, giving him like a game worn kit from the 2014 World Cup.
Hmm.
It was a big World Cup episode.
He
I
loved
wish
it.
they gave us a little bit more World Cup,
Hmm.
of course, as a sports fan.
Hmm.
Jamie did well. And also, like with the World Cup, we'll get back to Phoebe, but they were up 6-0, and Jamie comes in off the bench. Like, totally
Yeah, yeah.
unnecessary. Come on, man. I don't need that
who,
sympathy.
who is who who is England beating 6-0? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
At the World Cup. I want to know. Like six
I gotta
six?
rewind.
No. Like I support England where I can, but
Yeah.
six? Yeah, I thought no. I refuse to believe that that was happening. But I did like that Jamie wore Sam's
Yes.
number,
Yeah.
24. This little homage to Sam. That was good. And then I think that the picture Sam puts at the end, I think that was his dad in the
That would make
1994 World
sense.
Cup. It's supposed to be the team that his dad played, the Nigeria team, his dad. But then again, I felt like we didn't get enough of how Sam feels for not being part of the thing. Like I would have had Sam watching Nigeria play.
Sure.
Things like that. Like be like, I could have been there and seeing that. It's almost just a quick way to bring Edwin back in. Um, Speaking of rushed, we bring in Phoebe's teacher that we've
Mhm.
seen before to meet Roy, and I was thinking, ooh, are we going to put these two together? Because we've had hints about it before when he was with Keeley, but alas, all she did was serve to remind him of something like, ooh. And I didn't even get that. Like, I thought he had this realization, he has to quickly leave, and then he writes the letter to Keeley. And what my thing was trying to understand was what part of that interaction with the teacher made him realize I should write this letter. Especially because last week we had Rebecca speak to Roy and say things like, hey, you get in your own head. You're the one that kind of drops things. So you think that conversation would be the conversation that puts a spark in him. I'm not quite sure why this happens, but it's what happens. And then he goes and speaks to Keeley.
So I think I got it. So, Phoebe's teacher says to Roy, you look less stuck. You look lifted. Like, you know,
Mhm.
you're happier, simply put. Like you're less stressed and anxious. And she just says, I just hope the mess didn't cause too much damage. And then his, letter, even though he scrapped like five or six
Because his
first
handwriting is
first
terrible.
edits. Well, I mean, my handwriting sucks too. I wish as an architecture student I had better penmanship, but I got a lot of shit for that in college. Anyway, so Phoebe, you know, brings out the lighter side in him. His niece brings the tie dye shirt. Everybody has that comedic silence. I thought that was like one of my favorite parts of the whole episode. And then later, he has a different tie dye shirt
The
with
black,
like
yeah.
blues and
The
but
darker one.
like a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
darker tie dye, but still. Like, so he's like lifted, he's lighter, and then he goes to Keely's door, tries to throw it under the door, but then Keely scares him, says, "Oi!" And then, has the cute little scene with those two. And then he professes his love to her and explains that, look, you're Keely fucking Jones. You're a boss. You're a boss of KJPR. You're a boss of everybody. Like you are amazing. And I hope that my insecurities didn't hurt you. He had this like epiphany moment. I thought that was actually nicely connected. I like that Phoebe's teacher, even though she was upset with how she flirted with him, was still able to bring out like an obvious thing that he should have already known, but because he's so stuck in his ways, and many other people have told him that this season, he was able to truly connect with Keeley, and then they shag at the end of the episode. And he pulls in with the pink
I
little
think we've seen him wear that before
shawl.
in a previous season. Yeah, in a
I think
previous season.
so.
Which again, I find it interesting that again, I just think while I like that letter moment, I think we skip a lot of things. They've slept with each other. I think there's conversation between the two of them that we've missed because he broke up with her. He when things, and at least from her point of view, things are going well, things are going great. We're kind of having a semi future together, and then you want to leave me just like that with no detailed explanation. I feel like there's a conversation before you sleep together. You get back together again. It's like, oh, don't worry about that. We're together. And again, this for me speaks more to the fact that a lot of major plot points happen in this show, like Nate leaving the team. That just happen and we find out after the fact. We don't get the messy, dirty moments of I need to get out of here or we should fight and then we've made up and we've come through the fire and we're stronger for it. Like are Keely and Roy stronger for it now? How does Keely know that Roy's not going to be like, yeah, I'm like do this again? How did Roy know that Keely and Jack were broken up? Like, did that any of those conversations again? We can assume that maybe they had these conversations, but that's us assuming, and we shouldn't be assuming. We should know, we should see. So it's like I get the joke because she's telling Rebecca like, "Oh, that would have been terrible if you and Rupert, who would do that?" And then Roy walks in. Funny joke, I get it, but character narrative. Also, like I said to you before, is it good for Keely to be moving from one person to the other with no breaks in between? I don't know how healthy that is.
You want her to
Yeah,
take a
I said,
break. A little girl's trip, solo trip.
everyone that
Yeah.
she's been with in this show is someone who's close to her proximity in some way. It's either someone who works for the club or someone who's her boss, and it's almost like everyone's a rebound that stayed too long, and it's like I want to see Keely take care of Keely. And again, maybe that could still happen. Maybe this was just a moment with Roy. Doesn't necessarily just because they slept together doesn't necessarily mean they're back together. You know, though that's what's hinting at. If I was guessing, that's what's hinting at. But you never know with this show. Where else you got? Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Uh, any other storylines that we got here? I think that's the major plot points in this episode. And again,
Definitely the
yeah,
major
yeah.
ones. Ted didn't have
No,
much to do this
this season.
episode.
I'm sorry. It's this season. like what's Ted's arc of the season?
Yeah, it's only called Ted
The best thing he's
Lasso.
done is come up with a tactic that already existed.
True.
you know,
And mope around about his
actually, I was
ex-wife
going to ask you. I was thinking
potentially
about. I
being
was thinking about
proposed
this as I
to.
was writing my notes. Um,
Okay.
Again, for me, I don't like wasted scenes in storytelling. Right? I like a scene that drives the narrative forward, or something that's going to be set up for a payoff. A couple of episodes into this season, Higgins has a conversation with Rebecca about the possibility of having to let go of Ted. What was the point of that? Because
Yep.
Ted doesn't even get wind of that. It's not like something that he hears about. Oh my god, he's stressed. I could lose my job. Blah blah blah. And then clearly they have a 10-match winning streak right now, so they're not going to fire him now. So like, what was the point of that kind of? It was almost like they were setting us up for something that could come later because Rebecca's like kind of rubs it off. So I was like, ooh, why did they say that? But now I'm like, no, it's not. They're not going to fire Ted. If Ted leaves the club, it'd be his own choice after a win, not necessarily fired because he's losing. So I'm like
Yeah.
this.
He may still
Yeah.
leave, but at the
Hmm.
top, as you
Hmm.
mentioned. And Rebecca spits the tea in his face to bring us back to
Yep.
the beginning of how they met. So their relationship's
Yeah.
clearly good.
So then what was the point of that?
Well, yeah, where's
Yeah.
Ted
So
going?
what was the point of, oh, we might have to fire Ted? This is just example of little scenes throughout the season that were like, oh, why was that scene in there? Or things like we spoke about before. Zava, what was the point of the Zava storylines? Why do we have these things? And again, we see the Rebecca with the green matchbook this episode. Where's that going? I'm still not quite sure. It's like we're seeing things,
We keep hinting at it.
but I have no idea.
Ted
Yeah.
had it, and also Rebecca and Sam had their little
Hmm,
awkward
hmm.
moment. So that's consistently being
Yeah.
dragged on.
So
Like, what's happening there? We know Sam's upset. We know Nate's a mess. I hated how Nate was just hiding at home, and then he snuck into his parents and hiding at home, and then his mother was overly
mhm,
lovey. I understand that's what a mother does, but the father's there to be like tough, and they were both
mhm,
soft,
mhm.
and nobody really had like any growing
No,
conversation.
no. That's what I'm saying.
Rebecca's speech was
Th-
solid. Oh, I'm frustrated, man. Trust
that's what
me.
I'm saying in terms of
Overall,
also with what I was saying about Keely and Roy. It's like no one's having these conversations. These because one thing I've always liked about Ted Lasso is that as funny and joyful and fun as it is, it wasn't afraid from having the real deep conversations. Sometimes we have to go to these hard to discuss conversations in order to come out the other side better, right? We have to go through that. And I thought, opportunity for Nate to have these hard conversations, either with Rupert, his team, or someone, or for Keely and Roy to have these hard conversations. Like we're missing a whole bunch of big shit. Last episode ends with Isaac getting a red card. I would love to have seen him missing a whole bunch of games of I know the reasons for the red card, but it's like, okay, you're playing without your captain. Let's see what Sam is like as a captain. Left it.
we were so upset that Sam didn't make the
Yeah.
Nigerian team, but nothing was mentioned of our captain, Isaac, not making
Yeah.
the
Right.
team. They were just like, "Oh, that's it," you
It's
know?
just I don't.
I'm like, "Yeah, I guess. I guess we're a great club, but we only have like 5 guys that can make a World Club team.
And then the rest of the
Like,
team is
get
just
out of here."
relegated just to sitting there watching matches. And even then, it wasn't really just anything. It's
Yeah,
just sitting watching games.
they didn't even show
Yeah.
Colin, play for
Right.
Wales. We said that's
Seriously,
it.
I just thought of
Yeah.
that. Like, come on. Uh, and I'm wondering, is Edwin going to make his rival a restaurant? Because I know he makes the threat, but is that going to be a thing? I don't know.
Yeah, with Chicago dogs made of 85% horse meat. Fucking ridiculous. I did like the little line where he was like, "Yeah, guys from
Yeah, yeah,
Chicago." What was it? It was guys like Scottie Pippen, Obama, and Ferris
yeah.
Bueller.
I did like that. That was funny.
Like,
I also liked
nice subtle joke.
I also liked Ted's botched up analogy of using Michael Jordan to Sam. That was a nice
Yeah,
kind of like history lesson to people. He's like, "Oh, Michael Jordan." Well, actually, he's like, "Oh shit, maybe it doesn't work in that
because
context."
he was
Yeah,
short. Simply
it
put.
was all a tactical reason. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
right. That.
Little known fact for a nerdy sports audience: Michael Jordan's brother Larry was even better than him when they grew
Mm,
up, and he wasn't successful because he was too short.
mm,
Michael Jordan is 6'6". Somehow, even though his parents were like 5'5", 5'9", his brother only made it to like 5'10" or something like that. Even though Muggsy Bogues, was
this
5'3",
is true.
still able to work.
This is true. This is true.
You never
Uh,
know. Larry Jordan
uh,
coming at you.
Tim, 2 episodes left.
I know. I'm sorry, man.
2 episodes
I'm pissed.
left. Are we gonna skip to like next year? We skipped a whole season.
No.
We skipped a whole season, and they just like
Yeah.
Ted's already.
Richmond won the
You're
Premier
right.
League.
No,
Oh, great.
Richmond won.
Thanks.
They're in the Champions League now somehow. Ted's left
Yeah.
already.
Oh my God.
That's how I feel that's gonna happen.
Coach Beard and Nate out of nowhere. It's like, oh, great.
Right? Trent's book's been out a year already. New York Times bestseller. Like we're gonna just. I feel like we're gonna skip so many things. I have no idea because again, I don't know. I feel like it's almost like I'm just waiting for the show to finish as opposed to excited for where it's finishing.
Yeah.
If that makes I still enjoy
Yeah.
the show as a whole. I don't know this season. There's nothing that's like hooking me that I'm like, ooh, where's this storyline going?
We deserve a Coach Beard and Jade, Jane, conflict.
Right?
You know,
here
she's gonna carry 17 axes with her to some show.
I did like
Like,
that. They
oh,
want to celebrate.
she can't handle
She wants
them.
to celebrate Nate's bad karma, which I did kind of see what they're doing here, where it's like you start to get a sense when Coach asked Ted to go and celebrate Nate's bad karma, and Ted's like,
Mhm.
"You want to celebrate bad karma by doing something that could cause bad karma." You know, you always get that Ted is feeling bad for Nate, right? Where Beard doesn't care.
Oh
Beard
yeah,
is like us, like fuck Nate. You know, he hasn't just
yeah.
because he has a girlfriend doesn't mean that we forgiving him. He did a lot, and what I liked in previous seasons is that we had that slow buildup of Nate be turning evil, subtle things that would pop up, little things here, and so even his hair slowly changing color. You know, we had that build, but now. Oh, he's good. He has a girlfriend. Don't worry about it. We like him again. Oh, he left the team. Don't worry about it. So it's like, where's that conflict with Rupert? That's completely gone. So it's like, oh, he sends a letter to Will. Oh, okay, that's good. Next episode, he would just be like, oh, he's back. You know, like Ted would be like, oh, I brought him back 3 weeks ago. The commentators will tell us somehow. You know, just like even this idea of some people thinking Nate was fired, some people, and then Nate was like, I left. That could have been an interesting dialogue to happen. You know, on social media. Oh, he got fired. Blah blah. Because you know, like it would have been great commentary on social media as a whole and how the truth just gets twisted through the news cycle. Like, that's something that obviously happens in all kinds of entertainment and definitely prevalent in sports. That would have been interesting to see. But no, that wasn't the storyline at all. We just rushed
We
it.
saw nobody from the pub other than May.
Yep. No.
A little fan interaction would have been perfect. Talking about what if Messi and Ronaldo were on the same
Mm-hmm.
team? It's like, wouldn't that be great? But no, like, we're fans of Richmond. We want the Davids to succeed. It's like,
Yeah.
come on, a little
Yeah.
conflict.
Yeah.
I at least like that Rebecca didn't commit to kissing Rupert
Love that.
because all of a sudden Rupert was like nice for a
Mm-hmm.
bit and soft, and I'm like, oh no, they're gonna do this, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad she was like, no, get out of
Yeah,
here.
yeah, I did like not even like a mini kiss and then no. It was straight up, no. Like when Keita's, did your lips touch? It's like no, right away. I like that. Anyway, what do you nerdies think of this season? 2 episodes to go. I don't know this full confirmation that this is 100% the final season. It's just that the cast and crew have talked about it being the final season. Apple hasn't fully said the final season on paper, but it's pretty much the final season. So with 2 episodes possibly only to go, what do you nerdies think of this show, of this season? I won't say what you think of the show because I don't think it affects how much I like the show. A bad season, or not, I won't say a bad season, a not as good season doesn't necessarily mean the show is bad. But what do you think of this season specifically compared to other seasons? Find us on social media at The Nerdy Bunch. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Dave.
My name's English Dave, and this has been the Nerdy Bunch review of Ted Lasso Season 3, Episode 10. And if you're a fan of sports, check out Nerdy Sports and some of Tim's podcasts. He has a lot of interesting discussions full of drama, real world drama. And as always, Tim,
Keep it nerdy.
peace.